Welcome to Field Notes. These are 10-minute videos edited and uploaded from the field, showing the highlights of each section of the Continental Divide Trail and Great Divide Trail as I travel them. This is the first, covering the start of the trip from Nanaimo to East Glacier and the first 83 kilometers of the trip on segments 29 and 30 of the Continental Divide Trail. The trip began at Jackson Glacier Overlook Viewpoint Trailhead and ended at the Canadian border. The plan had been to obtain my backcountry permits from the Two Medicine Ranger Station. Unfortunately, that station no longer processes backcountry permits, so I had to take a shuttle to St. Mary. At the St. Mary station, I was informed that the Reynolds Creek campsite was booked solid for the next 3 days, so the route I had planned to take was not possible. Instead, a new route was devised, taking me over Pegan, Red Gap, and Stony Indian passes to reach Waterton River campsite prior to crossing the Canadian border and starting on the Great Divide Trail. This meant that I was going to have to cross 3 mountain passes in 4 days, and that meant that my plans to gradually build up and acclimatize to the altitude were going to go out the window. I left my home of 19 years for the last time on the morning of June 25th, 2024. This was strange and kind of depressing, and a highly suboptimal way to start my new life and my new adventure. But as I always say, you gotta make lemonade out of lemons. That's it. My old life is over. My new life begins. I walked to the Hullo catamaran ferries in Nanaimo and left the city in style. It was a glorious, beautiful morning as we crossed the Strait of Georgia, or the Salish Sea, to Vancouver, going underneath the Lionsgate Bridge and into Vancouver Harbor. A quick jump to Pacific Central Station in Vancouver by transit put me on a coach bound for King Street Station in Seattle, where I was able to board the Amtrak Empire Builder bound for Chicago, with important stops at East Glacier, Montana, the southernmost part of Glacier National Park. The train arrived in East Glacier at around 10 a.m. and after buying some bear spray and fuel, which I was not allowed to carry on the train, I made my way to Glacier Park Lodge, where I bought tickets for the shuttle to St. Mary. I went to the St. Mary visitor station and got my backcountry permits arranged. Unfortunately, the only schedule that they could work out involved me having to wait in St. Mary for 2 days and then to hitchhike to Jackson Glacier Overlook, where the trail began in earnest. This turned out to be fortunate because there was horrendous weather for the next 2 days with torrential rainfall, high winds, and hail. The delay gave me some time to explore St. Mary and look at the beautiful visitor center, which had this full 3D topographic map of the entire park, which allowed me to visualize my route, gave me a better idea of what I was attempting and where the difficult parts were going to be. This is on my way up to Pegan Pass. First real day of hiking. Weather has been horrendous for the past 24 hours. I got that National Weather Service advisory this morning, so I got a screenshot of that. And I'm expecting snow at the top. Then it was over Pegan Pass. This was a little bit intimidating given all the weather warnings that had been issued and the torrential rainfall and hail of the previous day. Fortunately, things tended to improve as the day went on, and by the time I reached the top, I was able to enjoy a short snack with a few other hikers at the top prior to descending on the other side towards Mini Glacier. So I'm at the top of Piegan Pass, about 2,300 meters or so. Absolutely gorgeous. Met some hikers going the other way. They're heading down to St. Mary, and I'm going the reverse direction right now. The weather's been pretty inclement, but well, it was improving until 10 minutes ago. Now it's getting nasty again, so I better get down. Oh my god, this is just so beautiful! The Mini Glacier Hotel is stunning, and it's someplace that I would like to stay one day. Maybe when I'm in a wheelchair and not 1 second sooner, but I would like to stay there someday. On the way up to the pass at Poya Lake, I spied a cinnamon-colored black bear digging for roots, and he wasn't too concerned about my presence and was able to move off the trail after I shouted "Hey bear" a few times to get his attention, and well, I got some nice photography as well. And that's where I'm going. Red Gap Pass. Red Gap Pass lives up to its name. It's named after the red argillite rocks of the Brunel Formation, which are interspersed with grayish quartzite, and this gives the pass its distinctive color and appearance. Near the summit, there are places where you can see ripples in some of the rocks, attesting to the fact that these rocks were once laid down in a shallow sea, and now you find them uplifted to the tops of mountains. Those are some of Glacier National Park's famous glaciers. In the Interpretive Center, they said that by 2040, they may be all melted. Moving from Gable Creek to Mokowanas Junction was pretty uneventful. It was the only day of the 4 where I didn't have to cross over a mountain pass, and basically this was just putting me in spitting distance of getting over Stony Indian Pass. Mokowanas Junction is quite a moist site, so it didn't surprise me in the morning when I found a few slugs all over my shoes and tent. Nothing too major. I was able to remove them and flick them off. But you know, it's a little gross. Then it was over Stony Indian Pass. This pass had 2 major waterfalls coming together, and at the top of each of those waterfalls was a ford. This is not a place where you want to lose your footing in a stream and end up going over a waterfall. So it was a little intimidating. Then that was followed by snowfields. And so it was kind of an interesting trip that day, going from ice cold water to snowfields, and then to rock over the pass. All right, so here we are, Stony Indian Pass, elevation 2,100 meters, well, maybe 2,105. The contours almost touch here. It's a perfect example of a saddle. You can see, if we go around, on one side of me here is Mount Wachichi, and we have a ridge coming down from that. And on the other side of me, we have another mountain, and again, a ridge coming down there. And then, just like it suggests, we have a dip on this side and a dip in front of me, forming a saddle shape. So this is a pass. So just when I reached the summit of Stony Indian Pass, I decided to sit down and enjoy a granola bar. About 30 seconds after I bit into the granola bar and swallowed the first piece, my mouth started tingling. Now, for those of you who have severe food allergies, you know that that's a bad sign. I have a severe peanut allergy, and despite the fact that this was supposedly a chocolate and cappuccino granola bar, the second ingredient was peanut butter, and I failed to read the label. I pulled out my antihistamines from my first aid kit, I pulled out my EpiPen, and prepared for the worst at possibly the worst place it could possibly happen. I hope they don't have to land a helicopter for me. The good news is I had a mild reaction, not a great afternoon, but far better than the alternative, having my airway cut off with an anaphylactic reaction. So I'll take it, thank you, even though I felt terrible.
And I knew the first 3 days were going to be tough. What I didn't count on is eating a granola bar with peanut butter in it at Stony Indian Pass. So now, in the past 2 hours, I vomited twice, and all the energy is drained out of me, so I'm just sitting here trying to get some energy to go again. I've got 9 kilometers to my campsite. Well, I'll have to make it somehow.
My last day in the United States started off like a B-grade horror movie.
There are some people who believe that the netting in tents is to protect you from mosquitoes and black flies. I now know the truth. It's to protect you from slugs. Hundreds and hundreds of slugs.
I still have the remains of slug trails all over my tent 20 days later here. It was kind of disgusting. From the Waterton River campsite to the Canadian border was a relatively easy 7 kilometers or so.
There we go. According to GPS, this is the international border. 49.0000000 north.
So that brought me to the end of the Continental Divide Trail and the beginning of the Great Divide Trail. And for the next 68 days, I will be continuing to travel on the Great Divide Trail north towards Blueberry Junction and then down to McBride. And we'll keep you posted with these field notes as the trip progresses. And now the airplane comes. Greg.